Hello, and welcome to Goals Lounge. Thank you so much for being with us today. We are living in an era of unprecedented information. Every single day, we are flooded with campaigns, messages, and calls to action, all competing for our attention. In that environment, the question is no longer simply how do we raise awareness? It's how do we cut through the noise in ways that genuinely change attitudes, shift cultural norms, and accelerate real action. This is where storytelling matters, because storytelling is how complexity becomes relatable, how abstract issues become personal, and how awareness turns into empathy and ultimately into responsibility. Powerful storytelling doesn't just tell us what the problem is, it asks us, what are we doing about it? It challenges assumptions, disrupts complacency, and makes inaction really uncomfortable. That's what we'll explore today, how storytelling and social impact campaigns, when done well, can move beyond awareness to create real, lasting change. I'm thrilled to be joined by two leaders, one from the front lines of gender equality advocacy and one from the world of cultural influence. Tabitha Morton, Executive Director of UN Women UK, and Bradley Archer Haynes, Brand Chief and former Executive Director of Content for Change at Paramount Global. But before we start, let's set the scene with some powerful storytelling.
That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Finished work, have you? Yeah? We're going to go home after this or
yeah.
out?
Does it matter where I'm going?
You're being very defensive.
I don't being defensive, I just don't want to talk to you. Is that okay?
Long day? Whoa.
No, the day's been fine. There's nothing wrong with me.
I'm being defensive.
I'm not being defensive to you.
I'm being stuck up.
I'm not being stuck up.
You and me, let's have a conversation.
Not you and me.
I'm being defensive.
Not
I should
me.
say something, but
I'm being stuck up.
No, just leave me alone.
what am I going to say?
I want to go home. I am very chilled. I'm very chilled.
And maybe we know each other.
Very chilled.
You're being very uptight.
What are you doing?
He's getting a bit close.
My friend is coming in a minute. Can you back up?
Me, come on.
No,
What if he kicks off? I could probably take him, but...
Right behind you.
Come on, yeah, come around. Shoot. Oh, God, there's a girl in here.
XC99. Tell her to pipe down.
Get back in the kitchen.
Maybe it's just a joke. Maybe not.
Yeah, you're fitting in perfectly here, honestly. Everyone's loving your work and just loving you, and have a meeting with you tonight just after work.
Would it be okay if it happened within the work hours? I just got things to do.
Super busy day tomorrow.
Right, that's enough. I've got it.
I've seen them look through the window.
What looks?
If I say anything, I could get the sack.
Boy, she's fit. Yeah,
let me look first. You know she'd be up for it.
Boy, she's a proper leggers.
Oh, it'd be easy as well, wouldn't it?
This isn't funny.
Let's rock, paper, scissors for it.
Look, she's
Don't
okay?
touch me.
There's no one else seeing us.
Come on, sweetheart.
Why isn't anybody doing anything? It's not my place.
Should I say something?
I'm gonna sound like a knob. Yeah, it's none of my business. Then we ain't know each other.
They'll stop soon.
I could make things worse. Just keep your head down. It's not really my place. I see.
What would I even say?
Good taste, kind of. I should get the sack.
Just say
I
something.
can't ignore this.
Yo, somebody's got to do something.
Because I don't want to be close to you.
Rude. We've been stuck up.
No,
Come on, let's have
just
a
leave me alone.
conversation.
I don't want to have a conversation.
Yo, is everything all right?
Okay, wow. Amazing storytelling, Tabitha. Congratulations to you and the team, and to Adam Hunt and his team for this short film. I understand that we're having a bit of an exclusive viewing today, so thank you for having us at the Goals Lounge. Now that you've had a chance to see it with an audience and on a big screen, what's staying with you?
It still just gives me shivers every time I see that. When we met with the amazing team at Banquet and the incredible scriptwriters behind this, we've seen so many films being made that become quite preachy, that become quite sort of, you know, this is the problem. And let's face it, we're facing a huge problem around gendered violence globally. You know, millions of women are living with this as their reality. They're facing sexual harassment every single day. And we're also seeing young men and boys who have been given this very narrow view of what a man and a boy is. But never in the history of men and women have preaching to someone ever changed anyone's mind. So we wanted to create something that got into why are people not making a difference? Why are people not stepping in?
Bradley, you're just seeing it now, too.
Yes, yeah. Firstly, congratulations. So as Annemarie mentioned, I was the executive director of an initiative we had called Content for Change at Paramount Global. And it lived in this entire ethos that the power of storytelling to transform perception and narrative is rich and takes it well beyond what kind of a traditional PSA style piece of messaging could achieve. For us, we in all of the work that we did and the work that we commissioned, social impact driven work, we validated that principle over and over. We did a big global study at one point just to reinforce the incredible work that you're doing that said 82% of people, adults around the world agree that stories within TV and film influence the way that they feel about people and causes and issues in the real world. So that means a couple of things. We have an immense opportunity to tell stories through a lens like this in a way that people connect to, and a huge responsibility to make sure that those stories are told accurately and with integrity. And so if I could just comment for a minute on the piece itself, what I love so much about it is that you are, and it is a principle that we live by in our work, which was, how do you show and not tell, right? A lot of traditional messaging, PSA style work, tells people about a problem and then tells people what to do or what they should be doing, right? This, as a male experiencing this, I connected to it. I understood what was happening behind the scenes of what, you know, these are, you may have seen the man sitting on the bus platform, you know, 1,000 times in your life, but you never knew what was going on within his mind. You may have heard narratives like this, but you never really understood what the world around it was experiencing while those things were happening. So you brought me into the story and you made me invested in the outcome. And I think that fundamentally is the big difference between telling and showing. So congratulations. I have a lot more to say, but suffice it to say it's beautiful work and I'm really excited to see where it goes.
And we really wanted to also show that this was all men. Because that's the other thing that happens. You know, you focus in on a demographic, you focus in on young men or working class men if you're in the UK. But this happens to all women and girls, and all men and boys can be part of the solution. So that was really what we wanted to get across.
So what was the genesis behind Bystander? You know, how did this even come to be? Because when it popped into my my text messages, and I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen something like this that really just suddenly got me and, you know, held my attention for, 3 minutes, and I couldn't look away.
Well, this is some work we've been doing in the UK and obviously as young women globally, but we've really focused in the UK on how do you get to the root causes of ending sexual harassment. And how do you engage men and boys in that? And at UN Women in Euro UK, we've always engaged men and boys because equality is better for everyone, as we know. So we've spent the last 5 years understanding the scale of the problem and then how you engage people in this sort of bystander active allyship. And at first, there was lots of training programs and they work to a degree, but how do you train millions of people? And it's also very much telling rather than showing. So we've got a series of campaigns now that use this model. So we've got a campaign that uses acts to talk to young men and boys. So we've got footballers and rugby stars under our Same Side campaign in partnership with Vodafone Foundation that talks about, that has young men and boys talking to young men and boys about what it is to be a man. And then this campaign, this particular video, came from this very stark reality that sexual harassment is happening in our workplaces, on our streets and online, and this polarisation of young men and boys. So we were so lucky to meet with the Banquet team. This has all been produced pro bono, so there's an incredible team behind this, from producers and script writers, who worked on this. And we said to them, we want to see this through the eyes of men. Too many of these stories are told through the eyes of women. That re-traumatises all of us when we see it again and again. So how do we do that? But we wanted to get into that inner monologue, because in the last 5 years, the one thing I've learned working with men and boys is there's so many men and boys out there who want to make a difference, but they just don't know how, or they're a bit scared. And we want to reflect all of that. So we sat down, and honestly, the script came back, and I think I had to make 2 changes. And then when Adam sent the treatment through, I think I was just blown away by it. So again, it's finding these incredible partners to work with.
Yeah, and if I could just comment on the point, in this case about gender, but also a broad point that I think is important to acknowledge. First of all, I think we all can relate to this idea that we all too often rely on the most marginalized to create the solution for any problem. And this extends in so many of the global issues that we're trying to tackle every day. So by you leaning into the fact that this is not just a problem for women and girls that to solve, that men need to be a part of the solution, obviously very important in effectively, doubling the opportunity you have for activism and for people to be engaged. The other point I want to make about that as a content and brand executive within a big kind of global content media organization, by doing that, you allow for a much broader appeal and a broader reach of these messages. Yeah. So in similar work that we did specific to gender, I could talk about, name the project a little bit later because I don't want to take away from this, but we created content that was, universally entertaining, right? And so for you to put this out there, it means that it has a lot more opportunity and a lot greater reach. So for us, we would take a piece of content like that and it could go globally, and it could go on platforms that are targeting men, women, probably not children, but lots of different environments, social platforms, streaming platforms. You can't do that with a traditional PSA style piece of content, right? And then you get a lot more engagement. And we've proven that over and over in our content because we're a content business. We need to create content first and foremost that resonates with people, that people want to watch. And another great thing to consider in all of this is you can tell really difficult and challenging stories with sobering underlying data that is entertaining, right? And that people want to experience. And so congrats again, you've done it so successfully.
And I think it's also like where you use the incredible You and Women brand as well. You can see, if you follow it to the very end, it's there. But that's not what we're leading with, because the point here is making the change. And we've got an incredible platform to do that with. But it's like, if you lead with You and Women are telling men, that's just going to sort of alienate as well. So I think it's really been clever about how we use the brand and when we do. But again, I don't think we would have had this opportunity if it wasn't for that incredible brand behind us. But again, it's just, for me, it is that show, don't tell. Yeah. Because I'd much rather have the impact out there. I'd much rather change men's minds in a beautiful way than them know it was us behind the campaign as well. I think that's really important.
So I'm going to just turn it back to the audience for a second, because how many of you coming into the CSW this month of March and feeling slightly overwhelmed by the amount of things that are going on in the world right now and what you're bombarded in the news? Raise your hand. That's almost everyone. And I think that's the world we live in, where every day there's something new happening and there's something that can be very traumatizing. I mean, it can be in a sense where we each are working on, whether it's one of the Sustainable Development Goals or peace and security. We have all these issues we're working on. There's all of this going on in the world at the same time. People are worried about the economy, cost of living, they're worried about conflict, they're worried about climate action, they're worried about all of these things. Why is storytelling helpful in this instance, and what can organizations do? Maybe Bradley, and then I'll go to Tabitha.
Yeah, now more than ever, I think we can all relate to the idea, and many of the things you were just pointing to, that the narrative, the global narrative, is often negative, divisive, and very sobering and challenging. And we are absorbing this every day as people. And so I come at this from a very biased point of view, but I feel the world more than ever needs not only entertainment, but a distraction, a way to experience things in a way that they can connect to and they can feel fulfilled by. And sometimes that is just taking a moment out to connect with a character. But also, this may feel a little counterintuitive, but in the project I was referencing before, I just want to name check them because they're an incredible organization called the Staying Alive Foundation, headed up by a woman named Wame Jalo out of Botswana. She did a big partnership with us and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to create, again, story-driven content similar to this. And the piece that was created, for example, around period poverty was actually a comedy, and it's just an example of how to take something and turn it on its head so that we can relate to it. We did a piece on HIV and AIDS self-stigma amongst women that was done as a horror film, right? So these are just ways to imagine, and this, just such a really character-driven drama, right? It allows us to connect to something in a way that may be, as I said before, a negative narrative, but we don't come out of it feeling negative. We feel satisfied, and we feel distracted from some of that's going on out there.
I talk about, we're living in a time, I call it the biggest PR campaign I've ever seen in my life. A PR campaign that says human rights have gone too far, LGBTQI rights have gone too far, women's rights have gone too far, the global majority rights have gone too far. That is one perspective of one section of humanity. It is not the truth. It's not a global truth. And it is also very well funded often, these messages that are out there. So I encourage people to find their people, find their communities, and hook back into the reality of that and push that PR campaign away. But it is through the power of stories, because just giving facts, just giving the statistics, and they are alarming and horrific, don't get me, I don't want to minimize that at all, but getting to the personal stories, getting to this is how bad it is, but look at what is actually happening in XYZ country. Look at the change that is happening instead of just the rollback, because you can point to country after country after country where human rights defenders are on the front line, but they're making a difference. You can look at women who are in war-torn countries who are pushing for change in those countries. So change is happening, but it is never just nice and linear. So we have to get creative. We have to get stories out there. We have to sort of stop just talking facts and sort of really connecting here with people.
Can I make one more point on that? I just think since we're here and just talking about goal number 17, I think what you're bringing to life for me, again, also, is this incredible need for partnership. You are an expert in these issues. You understand the data. You understand the real problem in the world. I do not, right? And I think, and the industry that I operate in does not. And so coming together to figure out how we integrate the real life strife into storytelling and content, work with content producers, work with creatives, work with people within the countries that you're, telling stories about, work with people with lived experience, because when you bring that together, then you get, products like this.
Well, I remember when the first call I had with Adam and Ian, and then they brought the script writer, on board. Like, they just got it really quickly. We were like, this is the problem. And then they were just like, the creativity was bubbling. So I think there's often sometimes a nervousness from NGOs and international organisations to sort of give your work to the creative. But if you get the right creative, and we were so lucky that we did.
And it was interesting, you were telling me that it was a female scriptwriter, and then the crew and the director and producer were all men. So what an interesting combination. And Bradley, you were talking about the R's, like how when you're talking with organizations, like what should we be keeping in mind right now?
Yeah, I think outside of this kind of show don't tell mentality, I just think think about the pillars of what content creators are thinking about. For me, I had a framework that we called the R, and we would actually say, are we telling a story? But it was an acronym. A being, is this authentic? Are we working with men when we're telling a story about a male's experience, even if it's in reaction to an issue that is disproportionately affecting females? The R being, is it relatable? So important for us because, again, coming back to that traditional PSA style content, it oftentimes feels over there, right? It feels hard to connect with. So find the common ground, and I love so many of our own examples of how we've done that. And then the E being, is it entertaining? Again, I come back to this point again. It's the world that I operate in, which isn't. I don't think it's second nature within this world, but it matters. It's what keeps people connected to a cause or to an issue. So think about that as you're creating your campaigns. Is it authentic? Is it relatable? Is it entertaining?
I think we get the first two right a lot, but I think the E part, we're scared. Maybe just a little bit, like our issues are so weighty, they're so big, really should we be thinking about them in an entertaining way, but at the same time to break through the noise, to make the connection, to build that trust. Maybe we need to also think about what's going to keep people engaged enough, and maybe that is through an entertaining, type of situation.
It's how you do it, isn't
Yes.
it? It's how you do it, and it's again. I've seen different ways of doing it, and we've seen videos made of the problem for years, and that has not changed anything. So let's not keep doing the same old things again and again. Let's do something different.
Can I give a quick example that brings that to life a little bit, if we have the moment? We did a partnership with Plan International. They wanted to drive home the idea that 122 million girls around the world do not have access to education. They wanted to put it on platforms like MTV, and those two connection points don't organically fit. So we created, our PSA was, we effectively created a choreographed dance. I'm not suggesting that this feels like it's minimizing an issue, but it is not. With girls from all around the world set to a music track by an amazing artist called Mavis Staples. You should look her up. Listen to the track. It's called Worthy. We showed girls all around the world doing a common thing. We showed girls celebrating, dancing, listening to music. The other aspects of who they are, besides just the fact that they are disproportionately not getting access to the education that they need. We pulled the user in to these girls' lives and we showed them in India, in Africa, in the US, in Brazil, in Mexico City. And then at the end, we told everyone, all of these girls are worthy, look at them. But do you know that 122 million of them can't get access to education? So it was an entertaining piece of content. I watched it and I still love watching it.
That just like when you describe it gives me like the goosebumps. That's my little test. Do I get the little goosebumps? And
So we also know that, like, if we want to get to young men and boys, for example, you've got to create content that is targeted for them. And our Same Side campaign, we released just 2 athletes in the last week, and in just over a week, we've had 1 million views on those athletes' videos in the UK alone. And we know that because we've targeted them just at young men and boys. It's not branded young women, just branded Same Side, and that's content that's talking about the breadth and depth of being a man. So if we just keep replicating that over weeks and months across countries, imagine the change we're going to make.
Okay, which leads me, imagine everyone right now, we're a year from now, hopefully the world is in a much better place. We're at CSW, Bystander has gone around the world. What does success look like?
Success looks like when men and boys are saying to each other, let's take action. So it's not women carrying that anymore, not women saying it anymore. It's men and boys saying, I know how to do it. I know what the problem is. I've got the language. Because as women, we've had the language for years because women have come before us and said, this is the problem. I want men to be able to really own that and feel that. So that's success for me when I hear men say, no, mate, don't say it like that. Come on, that's out of order. That's success for me.
Bradley, what does success look like? What should organizations be looking for?
Yeah, I mean, on a very technical term, we look at content like this and we do research, right? Like we understand, we ask before, what is your attitude, your intent, the action you would take. We show them the content and then we ask after and we try and understand, has it moved attitudes? Has it changed a point of view or elicited action? But I think in a less clinical way, for me even, success isn't always so explicit, and that's the hard thing of trying to quantify it when you need to get it distributed and there's people, funders and all of that involved. But if someone can relate to something or have an idea that they didn't have before, oftentimes it can lead to just small actions, I feel like, and I know people in this room can relate to that the small actions add up to a much bigger change in norms. So, you know, for me, I'm going to think twice, you know, just watching that. I may not, you know,
Success already.
Go run the campaign. But again, that's why I say I feel like we need to also acknowledge the success that you may not even understand that you're having. So, yeah.
Bradley, Tabitha, thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us in Goals Lounge and just taking away that power of storytelling. And we're looking forward to seeing Bystander get out there. Thank you.